Hey folks, Taco. Maybe someday it'll be a bonsai. Uh, Welcome to my Bonsaiverse. Again, just trying out that name, seeing how I like it. Might just call it a Bonsaiverse because everyone's got their own. So we'll call it a Bonsaiverse. This is one of my favorite trees. This is modeled to be a sort of bottle tree. There's an Australian bottle tree. It's a dwarf Pachira aquatica, I believe. It may not be dwarf, but it's, of course, dwarf shaped. This did start off life as one of those horrible stumps with branches coming off of it. It is still a little bit less horrible branch or stump with branch coming off of it, but it is starting to get a form to it. So, of course, I didn't really pick a front yet. I think I want the front to be more this way, but I haven't yet decided. Right now, the top of it's pretty well trimmed. I got a gnat here. Ugh. Um, but I want to put it into a different container. I do want to get some more branching here before I get too much bigger, but I do want it still to grow. And I think it's kind of maxed out, the trunk size it's got. So to put it in a bigger pot, hopefully I'll get a little bit more size out of it. I do not know how this is going to go. In the past, I wanted to take more off the bottom of this to make it a little bit stouter of a tree. But in this case now I'm kind of embracing the bottle shape, the inverse taper at the bottom, which you can't see very well because it's in a pot with, tall sides. And I'm going to put it into another tall pot, but hopefully we'll get a little improvement on this thing. I use it's called Google Gemini, which is a AI service from Google, to try to see what this would look like if it had a couple more branches, if it was in a different pot. And I like it with twice the number of branches. I mean, literally just a couple more bifurcations, and this thing looks even better. The leaves have somewhat reduced, but not a lot. All these are baby leaves right now. I kind of defoliated it, except for this one. It's the oldest. This one's still opening up, but it's already quite large. So it may not get small, all those leaves, but I'm going to keep trying. I figure the more intersections, both the top and bottom, the better. But as it is kind of slowed down a little bit, and while it's good in health, I want to repot it so it doesn't slow down all the way and get in bad health. So I'm going to zoom you folks in and we'll get diving in on this. It is a very interesting little tree, at least to me. It's not incredibly complicated in its form. I'll give it another little spin for you. Again, I kind of wanted the front to be somewhere around there, so you kind of see the back trunk between these two. Hopefully it's the right back trunk between these two. Hopefully that's the right, maybe it was there. It was somewhere in that range. I might want to switch it to this, because then I get all that viewing all the way through the back. I don't really have any front branches here, and that's kind of nice. But again, right now it's in a round pot, so it doesn't really matter, and it'll go back into a round pot. So starting off, it is in pretty good bonsai soil. I'm going to try to do this. Ooh, sorry, bud. He's here bouncing around. By dumping into this versus I'm going to try to just loosen it up before I start being too crazy. I don't know that did much. It didn't really do much. It does have roots coming out the bottom, but I expected that. All right. It's quite. Oh, there we go. Here it comes. All right. Ooh. So you can kind of see a little bit more of the inverse taper now. I'm not upset about that, to be honest. And the smell in the pot is good. I'm very happy about that. Always good to have good smells. Just gotta put the pot down somewhere. I'm gonna pause you guys for that. All right, we're back in. Let me just double check real quick. Yeah, we're back in there. So this is how she looks right now. I don't think there's many roots up top, but we'll see. I'm just gonna see what we got going on. Yeah, didn't form a lot of roots up top. I think most of it is just gonna fall off, which is fine. You see there are some roots in here, which is good. Being very gentle. This is quite wet. I watered it this morning because I didn't know how much opportunity for light I'd get. I think I told you folks before, I'm indoors. I'm in a, I call it a spare bedroom. It's the bedroom in my flat. I just don't really sleep in it because I've been sleeping out in the other room with Uzi on a couch cushion. He's not able to get up on stuff, and where he sleeps, I sleep. So there's a little bit of an idea of that inverse taper. I don't think it started to even get any roots up top. I think it just kind of stuck with the inverse taper. So I'm trying to be as gentle as possible. Somehow I had a stick in there. That's not a great amount of flare or anything like that. I think the last time I had this repotted, I looked at it, I was like, that's not a flare, that's the opposite, but I'm still kind of hoping I'd get some roots higher up. I just don't see any evidence of it. These might be roots that are starting, but I think they're old stuff. I don't think they're roots. These ones, yes, he doesn't want to give me that even root base, so I'm glad I'm repotting it. Also, a lot of this is very fine. I don't know if I'd call it compacted. Oops, that was loud. I don't know if I'd call it compacted, but it's quite fine. I don't want fine soil. I want bigger particles to help me a little bit more with getting that division of the roots and giving myself more air. I don't think there's enough air in here. So again, I think that I made the right call, not waiting until it slowed down too much, because it had slowed down. I can see there's some good roots in here, but I fear for what would have happened if I hadn't gotten in here when I did. They have been growing through the drainage screen there, which still has some roots in it. I'm pretty sure the trunk goes all the way to the bottom. Trying to be careful not to damage any roots. Just kind of, not grab the soil, kind of go around the roots and try to knock the soil out. It's just tough because I got them going every which way, and here we go. We're almost there. Almost to the point where I can see what this thing is looking like. On a very related note, I'm just going to spread this out for more visibility for me. I finished reading Adam's book. I've been reading it to Uzi. And Adam, great job. I knew I would learn a lot because I don't really know much. I don't really understand a lot. And I'm awful at understanding. Really, everything when it comes to bonsai is like something I've heard or been told. I'm less understanding. I kind of repeat facts. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's not on the level that some of these folks are, and Adam is one of those. He clearly has an understanding. So really well written book. I really enjoyed it. It was particularly nice because as someone who has watched a lot of your content, it was very authentic. I remembered hearing some of the things you'd said, and it really was, I don't know. I read it out loud to my dog, but it felt like I was listening to it at the same time. Like I could hear you saying all those things in your voice, and it just made perfect sense to me. Now, I didn't in any way try to alter my voice to sound more like you, but it was really cool to just have that experience. All right, this is what I'm looking at. A lot going straight down, not a lot going out to the sides, but that's kind of how it is. I'm not going to rinse this. Instead, it's nice and moist. I'm just going to leave it alone. There's not a whole lot clinging to it, but the roots look pretty healthy. I'm going to do a small trim on roots like this, and that's it. It doesn't really need a whole lot. So, wrong set of trimmers. Grab this. Just do a little kind of profile prune thing there. I should prune farther up, but honestly, I want to pot it a little bit higher in this pot. So those are done. And this is what I'm looking at. There's no real front or back or anything like that. If anything, the front would be one of these sides that I have not determined what the top of it, but this thing's certainly still a work in progress. So I'm just looking at the trunk here to make sure there's a little piece of blue here. I don't know what it is, but make sure there's nothing I need to be aware of when I'm repotting it. I'm not sure if these are lower branches or old roots. If they were old roots, I wish they'd kept them. But the trunk feels good. It smells okay. That's always a good thing. And now, I think this is the pot I'm going to put it in. I think it'll look really good. I'm going to plant it sort of high. It has 3 drainage holes in it. It is a cooking pot. This is not a bonsai pot per se. It is a cooking pot. And what I did is I drilled holes in it and put just little feet on there so it drained. It does have a little notch as well, just to help a little bit of airflow, but it was before I realized this is just incredibly difficult to, cut into with anything else. So it actually, I'll lay this down for a second. You kind of hear it doesn't really sing, but it doesn't sound like it's broken. So the hole's drilled really well, and I think it'll look awesome. It'll have room to grow, and it'll be very proportional. It has a sort of, I guess you call it a sort of, rising sun or sunrise, sunset pattern on it. It is a sort of a regular glaze. I don't know that it's handmade, but it's not perfect. The inside, of course, is somewhat glazed. It's not all glazed, but I'm excited to use it. It's a nice flat bottom. It's a good shape, and even though it's not a traditional bonsai pot, it makes me feel good about what I'm using. So, one more update to what I do is that I have actually switched to putting more perlite into my soil mixture. Making sure it is eggshell. I'm okay with it being in there. I just need to crack it up as much as possible and pull the membrane if I can. All right. So my soil mixture looks very different now, and that's because I've changed it. I've altered it. I do want to have better moisture retention. And again, I'm picking out pieces that I'm not sure I want in here while it goes in, making sure big pieces are broken up. Pieces, I'm not sure if they're sphagnum or if they're perlite, but it's not really worth mixing those in there if I don't want them. And I got like old pieces of wood that don't burn up when I bake this stuff, and sometimes I miss them. Yeah, so the perlite will help a little bit with moisture retention. I'll get a little bit more time between waterings. I think that's a rock. Ooh. And it shouldn't create any issues. I've never heard of it creating issues like, oh, too much perlite. If it happens, I haven't heard it. Right now, I'm really concerned with spending a little bit less time worried about how watered it is and how it dries out. And honestly, I think it'll dry at about the same rate. So that's about what I'm looking at. I know I've got some stuff sticking straight down here, so I'm just going to kind of whittle it down to there. And I think that's about the level I want it to be. I'm going to fill not all the way to the rim, but close to it. And this will be a complicated one. Yeah, I know I spilled some. Oof. Because it is more vertical than the root base. I would love to correct that, but right now I do want that good strong growth. That should hold it up. Let's see. Yeah. Almost held up, right? Almost. Oof. Use my scissors. Oh, they're not long enough. Okay. Well, I'll just start putting this stuff in then. So it's particularly important. I've got very consistent size to these granules. I don't know what that was, but it's gone now. It's very important that I stake in all this soil very, very well. You may not see what I'm doing on the back here, but I'm doing the same thing I always do. Only I'm coming at a very extreme angle to make sure I've got it under the base of this tree. It may be that I'm sort of screwing myself as far as putting into a very, very shallow pot. But for me, to the proportion of this tree, I think this isn't that bad as far as being shallow. I think it's a very good height for the tree. I think it's about 4 inches deep, but again, it's 8 inches, 10 inches in diameter. Sorry, I'll get better about my metric for those of you who use real measurements. But I think when it's all filled in, it won't look awful being in this tall pot. I'm trying to focus on finding pots that are taller without looking overly tall. They don't look like flower pots. And that's really my only concern, is not having it look like it's in a flower pot. All right. So, although I'm not done staking it all in, that's pretty much the top layer. I'm going to put some more in here while it's standing up straight to try to finish it out. Now, I did sift all this. Of course, there's always still dust, but when I sifted all this, I try to pull out that's sphagnum, I'll leave that in there. All the finer, like this is what I would call medium sized. There is some large stuff in here, like this rock here. I'll put that somewhere else because I saw it. But as far as the finer stuff, it's not too fine. I did save all that. I don't have a lot of it. Most of what sifts out is really dust, and it's not usable by anybody. But it's kind of cool to have that option. It is good grit for my chickens, so I could always throw it in their chicken coop. I think that the finer stuff might work well. Big rock there. I think the finer stuff might work quite well, just not in a large pot like this. I don't have any smaller stuff right now, but let's say in the future I want to do some accent plants, kusamano, and that would be a good way to use that finer stuff. I definitely need more on here. So I think, well, I hope anyone watching this can kind of see now a little bit of my vision. It's not actually a like crazy tall pot in its general appearance. It doesn't look as tall as it really is. Some more there, and a lot more on the other side. Most of the soil that came out of this was much finer, so I'll probably try to save some of that. But for now, I just want to get this all staked in so it is nice and still sphagnum. Okay, tear it up a little bit. So, weird big rock, or small rock, but big rock for the size of chicken I got here. I would like to do a better job as far as like sifting all of this. So I probably will in the future. I'll probably sift it into large, medium, and small, suitable for a bonsai media size. I've not yet gotten to that point. I would prefer to use medium to small, probably more medium than anything else for most of these trees. And to get the large stuff out would actually be really nice, so I could use that for top offs in between planting. Oh, I think I put just the right amount of soil in here. Nice. For the super fine, I don't want to use, I probably shouldn't even be mixing the medium and the small. Medium being anything up to the size of like a regular sweet pea, and small being something as small as like or the size of a peppercorn and smaller. Large stuff being bigger than a sweet pea, and I have a considerable amount of each of those here. Alrighty, very pleased with that. So it's planted higher. It's got more, stuff in here, soil. It's got more soil in here. It definitely has more roots that are closer to the surface. I think it'll do well. I think it's going to drain a lot better, which I would assume this tree loves to drain well. It was a very, very thirsty tree. It hasn't been so much, even though it's been growing. And I think that is a result of, well, combination of things. Less light and not the best drainage as that soil became compacted. It is still wet, and I watered it this morning. So even though it was quite wet before, I'm going to water it again. I am using my little Haws, I can't remember what it's called, but teeny tiny one. It's like half a liter. And I'm going to water it in. I did poke more holes in this to get better water flow because it was just dreadfully slow before. So it waters more like a regular watering can. It took a little bit to get it to run right. It's running real nicely now. I don't really get drips unless I make it drip. Oh man, it's kind of nice. I like this. Ooh. All right, starting to come off the bottom, but I figure it'll still keep coming out. Yeah, I really like the way that this planting has worked. Ooh, there's a little something that's not supposed to be in there. Dog hair. So if you can see, but yeah, poke some extra holes in it. This little piece of rubber keeps it from dripping there. It is a good size. There's some other things that I would probably do to it if I were to modify it more, but it's plastic, so I can only do so much. But I do want to use the best tool for the job. When I'm indoors, this one gives me the most control and the least amount of spilling. So my soil now has a lot more perlite in it, and I think that's a good move. This one will go back on the shelf, and enjoy its time as a real good bonsai tree. Now I'm gonna take you guys back out real quick. Yeah. All right. I think it's great. I'm really, really pleased with this one. For example, before this was a flower pot. There's no doubt about it. It is still in quite a deep pot. It is planted higher. I don't think the roots are even touching the bottom here, but clearly it drains. There's lots of water here. It wasn't drained as well. This has 3 big holes. This one had just a small one. It's a good hole, don't get me wrong. I think I may have made it bigger when I bought it. This is Michael's flower pot, and it's a good flower pot. It really is. These terracotta pots are very good for tropicals. You just can't let them get too broken down. But this is a high-fired cooking pot. It'll be a lot better. Now, it feels pretty solid in here. I'm not worried about it bouncing around. I'm pretty sure I've got all my roots covered, and it's watered in. I mean, I put half a liter in. I'll probably water it again this evening, but I'm very, very pleased. This being one potential front I think you're looking at. Again, I think it's starting to get a good tree form. And bottle trees, if you look them up from Australia, they do have a very inverted taper. They have branching like this. They get finer branches, of course, they're much larger trees. But I think that's something I'll just have to try to work towards, is getting finer branches. It will get bigger. And I'm really pleased with this pot, even though, even though it's a really tall pot. And for perspective, I have my Wiggly Boy ficus. I'm going to be putting into this pot, which is much, much smaller. Much lower. Again, drilled my holes in that. This is not a bonsai pot. This is a ornamental flower planting pot. It was glued full of foam and all kinds of flowers. Some poor person at the thrift store where I found this was like, "Ooh, that's really pretty." I said, "Yeah, did you want the flowers?" Actually, "Oh, no, I couldn't." So I'm throwing them away. And I don't think she believed me. But I did. I threw them away. I did not have any reason to keep them. I was just getting the pot. So this is that pot. It is a great pot as far as I'm concerned. Got my the best tying in of all my screens, but it is ready to go. So the next next entry will be me repotting that Wiggly Boy ficus. I am still having issues with some of my trees and their survival. I repotted a couple of them. The Ficus elastica burgundy was repotted successfully, and it seems to be doing well. That's the one I tied into the pot. The cherry, yeah, the dwarf weeping Barbados cherry seems to have no change, but the soil is drying out, so it's either getting very, very good circulation, but I think that that tree might make it, if that's any indication. I have a fan up, it's blowing air all the time, it has a little bit of a humidifier on it, but I think getting all of the plants with absolute top quality, maybe not fresh, but top quality soil in there is going to help them all grow correctly. I really need to make sure I'm on top of things. So this is the first step. This is one that hadn't been repotted in a little bit, although the soil wasn't bad. I do still need to repot my Wiggly Boy ficus, which will be in this pot. And then I've got my it's a variegated ficus benjamina. I just don't remember I think it's Anastasia, but I could be wrong. Anastasia. That one needs to be repotted. The canopy ginseng needs to be repotted. That might be it. I would like to repot my willow leaf ficus, all of them, because none of them are doing that great. I need to reread my instructions that I got from my Bonsai Society on those and just see if I can figure out what's going on. I do have scale in them. I'm worried that I still have some scale, but I think it might be that I just end up putting those in a plastic bag with that humidifier fan and letting a lot of air hit them. That's all I can really think of. So that might happen too. And that'd be great because there'd be a lot of humidity, a lot of airflow, and hopefully that'll stimulate them some good growth. I really need those to make it. One of them I spent a lot of time on, kind of saved it, and it just hasn't been the same since. And it was just starting to get some good structure for the size that it's at. So I'd like to keep that one a little bit bigger than this, but not very big. And a lot of my trees are probably going to end up this size or bigger now. I'm finding it not necessarily difficult to keep them small, but not as appropriate. And I can see how a little bit larger some of the scale will be better. So some of my bonsai are getting bigger. I don't know if that's an evolution that everybody goes through, but it's certainly an evolution I'm going through. and I don't want to be afraid to let them get larger, nor do I want to forget that just making them larger isn't a correction for other issues they might have in their structure or their development. So, for example, the Wiggly Boy ficus is not going to a larger pot. This is smaller, if anything. It's a little bit wider, but it's not wider in any great detail. But the one it's in now is in a resin pot. So that will hopefully help that one. And I'm just rambling now. So thank you for joining me in my Bonsaiverse. And, well, I'll get another episode up for you folks soon. Sorry, now I'm just rambling. Thank you all for coming. Please interact, comment, like, subscribe. If you see any issues that I don't see, please, please, please tell me. Even if there's stuff in my teeth, please tell me. I need to know. And hopefully in the future, I'll have a lot more good content for everybody with a lot more work specifically on trees, not necessarily small ones, but the farm, of course, it's coming time to trim apple trees. They're losing all the leaves up at the farm. They might have finished losing all of them, so the next time I'm up there will be a lot of pruning. I'll try to get that on film for you folks. So thanks again. Take care of yourselves. Cheers.